Okay, and so up until this point, we've been trying to figure out, or the characters have been trying to figure out, how to solve this, whole mystery of, you know, the markings on these dead bodies. And that's why the fairies came, because the fairies were the ones that ended up being killed, or fairies were dying, and they had all these strange markings on them, and they had, what's it called, like, they filled with seawater and all that stuff, and so that's why they came, and the whole shebang. They're trying to solve this, and they're trying to keep everything on the DL because of Mark, and they can't let the Clave know that Mark is back. And so on page 501, I loved this scene so much, and it was with Tavi, and you know Tavi, he's the youngest of the Blackthorns. He's like, what, like 7 or something at this point in the story. And so, this is the first time that we hear the term Lady Midnight be mentioned in the book. And so I'm like, the title of the book. So they're all together, and then, you know, Tavi comes up and he's holding a book, filled with a whole bunch of the, like, Shadowhunter stories, like fairy tales or whatever. And he's like, yeah, you know, what you're talking about, it sounds like this, you know, Lady Midnight. And so Tavi, he's like, oh, there was a Shadowhunter lady. She fell in love with someone who wasn't supposed to be in love with. Her parents trapped her in an iron castle and he couldn't get in. She died of sadness, so the man who loved her went to the king of the fairies and asked if there was a way to bring her back. And he's like, he said there was a rhyme. And I shall read it to you now. First the flame and then the flood. In the end, it's blackthorn blood. Seek thou to forget what's past. First 13 and then the last. Search not the book of angels gray. Red or white will lead you far astray. To regain what you have lost, find the black book at any cost. And so that is like a major clue to solve this whole mystery of like who is killing all these people. Okay, and so then we get to one of the parts that like was hurting my heart a lot, and it's page 520, and it's when Kieran and Gwen and Irlith, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, when they come and they say that Mark needs to be whipped because he told Christina a secret that he wasn't supposed to tell her. And so Irlith or Ilith, whatever, is like, okay, well, you're gonna be whipped 20 times. And so Julian, he volunteers, and I'm like, I knew you were gonna do this. I knew it. I knew you were gonna volunteer, and oh my goodness. And so Julian takes the whipping, and he takes a few, and Emma, like, their Parabatai bond is really, really strong between the two of them, partly because like they like are loving each other in a way that they're not supposed to. And so when he is hit, she feels it, and so they explain it as this like burning pain in her back, and like the reader, me, I was reading it, I'm just like, oh my god, that's hurting me, like, ow. And then so of course Emma decides that she is going to take the rest of Julian's whippings, and oh my goodness, like, so she goes to Julian, and he's already like he's been whipped so many times already that he's just like out of it. And so she tells him, she puts a rune on him to like make him fall asleep, and so she takes the rest of the whippings. And so it was a really intense scene. So at this point, Mark, he's seen what his brother and what Emma has done for him. He knows that Emma not only did that for Julian, but she also did it for Mark, because she, you know, loves him too, ultimately. And so Julian and Mark have a conversation, and so Mark is like, you know what, no, I'm going to stay no matter what. Like, I'm going to stay with you. Like, Kieran is no longer, because Kieran was gonna let Julian take the whippings for him, and obviously like Mark was like, no. And so yeah, he does not trust Kieran anymore. He no longer wants to be with him. And so he just tells Julian, he's like, yeah, like, we're family, and I'm going to stay no matter what. So they're talking, and Christina's like, oh, something about it was not selfish. I thought now for a while that I would never want a Parabatai, but I would feel differently, I think, if that Parabatai could have been you. And I love their relationship so much. Emma and Christina's relationship was honestly like my favorite part, or one of my favorite parts of this book. Every time they were together, it was just funny and heartfelt and loving, and it was just wonderful. And like Christina being one of my favorite character, any scene with her was just wonderful, but every scene with her and Emma was just really, really great. And so after they mentioned that about, oh, maybe, you know, I want you to be my Parabatai, that got me to thinking, like, okay, well, obviously, if all of our dreams come true, Emma and Julian are going to have to break their Parabatai bond so that they can, you know, be together. And so I feel like that's going to be a big thing in the next 2 books, is how are they going to do this to be together. And so they didn't really get into it in this book, besides at the end when Malcolm told Emma, or no, Jem told Emma about how, like, yeah, that when Parabatai fall in love, like, they go crazy and, like, they just don't, they get really bad. And so obviously that cannot happen because that already started with Emma when she, like, put her arm up, and the rune that Julian put on her, like, stopped Malcolm. And so that got me to think, like, I don't even have any theories for, like, how to even break the Parabatai bond. Like, I don't even know. I feel like Diego is going to be a part of that or something, because he's going to be able to, or that maybe that'll be something where they go to the Skolomans and Diego will be a part of it to help them figure it out. I don't know, but I am just so fascinated by that. And I feel like if that does happen, then Emma can have another Parabatai, and maybe that person can be Christina, unless Christina and Jamie or Jaime like get together again and realize that they want to be each other's Parabatai. But I don't know. I literally have no theories for the next books in this series. Later on, I have my next note here is when we figure out that Malcolm is the guardian. When we figure out that Malcolm was the betrayer, the traitor of this book. And it was like, oh my god, like, honestly, like, they were saying, like, how could we not see this? Like, he was always, he was the one who fell in love with this Annabelle, and that they, you know, couldn't be together, and so he thought that, you know, she died and all that, and it was just crazy sauce that Malcolm was the guardian. Oh my goodness. Okay. And then page 24, by the name of Annabelle Lee is the name of it. And so this part with in the like rhyme or whatever, for Blackthorn blood, the last sacrifice of Blackthorn blood to bring back a Blackthorn. Oh my goodness, I'm just like, no, what does this mean? They're not gonna just mention this and then not have somebody be kidnapped. And sure enough, Tavi is kidnapped by Malcolm, and it's just Max flashbacks were happening, and I was not happy. Yep, I even wrote that. Can you see that? I even wrote Max flashbacks because I was not having it. I'm like, no, don't you hurt my little Tavi. Don't you hurt my little boy who's super smart and basically solved this entire mystery. No, you're not gonna hurt my little son. No. Also, speaking of that, that was another thing that I absolutely adored about Julian, was the fact that, you know, everything happened when he was 12, and so he rose to the occasion, and he became everybody's father, and he learned how to cook, and he, you know, put them all to sleep when they had bad dreams, and he was just there for everybody, and he's been there for everybody. And every time he got really sentimental with his kids, when he's like, they're my children, they're my kids, oh my goodness, I was like, oh Julian, oh my goodness, oh my, I love you. So then everybody's freaking out, and then all of a sudden Kieran shows up, and he decides to tell them, you know, more truth. And so he basically tells them that Malcolm was the one that killed Emma's parents, and it was for nothing but an experiment. Malcolm wanted to see if it would work, and then they all need to go. They're like, and the last like 100 pages were super like fast paced because like Tavi was taken, so they're like, we need to go to the convergence now. And so they're getting ready, and Mark, he on page 567, he finally lets himself be ruined. He gave Julian the stele to finally give him a rune. Alright, so then they finally get to the convergence, and then poor Tavi is on a slab, and I'm like, oh my god, save him. So then they start fighting, and Mark and Julian decide to like run off for a minute to go do something, and then later on we find out that it's to go and get Kieran's horse to come in and like break that bond that was around the circle or whatever, and so, that like thing that Malcolm put up. And then Malcolm runs off, and Emma like charges after him, and then he puts up a barrier, and so it's an Emma and Malcolm showdown. And this was an intense scene, because she like grabbed the hands that he needed to like complete the thing or whatever to save Annabelle, or to bring her, to resurrect her, because that was the whole reason for everything. But yeah, Malcolm was like taunting her with the whole Parabatai thing. He's like, I'm the only one that knows, or I don't remember if he said that, but he's like, oh, I know what happens to, you know, Parabatai if, you know, what you and Julian are doing, and I can tell you what it is. And so she kills him before he can tell her what it is, but then Jem tells her later on. So I feel like there's more to it. I honestly feel like there's more to that whole Parabatai secrets, and that we might figure out why later. I am so intrigued. And so Emma, she, you know, is not one to necessarily feel guilty for the people that she kills. She is not like Julian in that sense, and she has no problem with fighting and hurting somebody. And so she did not feel bad for killing Malcolm, and I didn't expect her to. Like, he killed her parents, for God's sakes. And so, and then after all, when she's like, yeah, that I'm really happy that I just know everything now, and so that she can move forward, and I'm like, I'm very happy for you too, but then I feel like everything's just gonna get so much worse, and it's going to. Okay. And so what's it called, they finish that, they save Tabby, they go back home, and so Magnus and Clary and Jace and Robert Lightwood are waiting for them at the Institute. And then they're like, oh yeah, from Simon and Isabel's engagement party. And I'm just like, hold up. Simon and Izzy engagement party? Oh my god. And so they're talking, and Julian's trying to explain what happened, and then, you know, Robert's like, yay, Centurion, like, tell me what happened, da da da. And so Julian just continues to tell them the whole story, and he basically throws Nightshade under the bus, that vampire. And so I feel like that's something that's gonna seriously come back to bite them in the butt. Okay, and then we get to like nearer to the end, and so Emma and Julian are, you know, there. And then there's the next chapter, and it's back to Johnny Rook's house. And so, as we all know, Kit is Johnny Rook's son, and so we get that scene again, and Johnny is attacked by the demons, and then he sends Kit downstairs. Kit is trying desperately to reach Emma by phone. Oh, because that was something that happened earlier in the book. Also, Emma and Julian went to go and talk to Johnny, and then they heard something downstairs, and it was that was another, I forgot to mention this. Oh my god, that was another part that I absolutely adored, was that scene. Well, not that scene, the scene that happened afterwards, where Ty had followed them, and he heard something downstairs, and so when he went down there, he found Kit. And so, you know, they all handle that, and then when they're leaving, Kit and Emma are at the door of the car, and so Julian comes out, and so I'm thinking, man, he's gonna like yell at Ty and be like, you shouldn't have done that, like, you weren't prepared, da, da, da. And so he does the complete opposite of what I thought he was gonna do, and he like hugs Ty, and it like embraces him, and then Ty is like kind of shocked, and then like hugs him back, and I just thought that was a really nice moment between them, and I just loved it so much. Okay, and then before all that happens, there's a part back into at the Institute with Christina and Diego, and I love that scene. I really am loving Diego. I don't find him sketchy at all. I feel like what he told Christina is true with what she overheard, and I really want them to like repair their relationship and like get back together. We don't know that much about them two. We don't know too much about their history besides like what they told us, and we don't know like too much about Diego, but I trust him. I trust him. I trust him. Alright, so I'm realizing that this video is already like super duper long, so I want to just personally thank you right now for watching all of this, because I talk so much about my books. So much. Okay, so that whole thing with Mark. Oh, okay. And then, so we're back with Kit, and we're back at Johnny Rook's house. Johnny Rook is dead. Kit is still alive, and he's waiting for Emma to show up. And so Emma shows up. Tessa shows up. I just hit my hand on my book. Jem eventually shows up, and I'm just like, oh my god, Tessa and Jem, yes, please. So then we have like the second biggest like reveal thing of this book. Oh, she's like, oh, come with me, you know, Christopher Herondale. And I'm like, wait just a minute here. Herondale? What you talking about, Herondale? And so the first thought is, Jace, hey, look, you have more family. So that is going to be, oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Computer just fell. That's something that we're gonna get a lot more of Jace, probably Clary, probably the rest of them, but mostly Jace in the next book, because Herondales, we need them to communicate. And yeah, I'm sure Jace wants to meet another member of his family, because he already has a pretty messed up family. So then all of that happens. They come back to the Institute. Kit's just like, you know what? I'm gonna lock myself in a room. Anybody comes in, I'll kill you. And so that's the end of that. And so, what's it called? They come back and Jem and Tessa are there. And they're like, oh yeah, that we need to go back to New York. And Jem, that's when Jem tells Emma about the whole Parabatai thing. And so they're talking, and all of a sudden there was a shimmer in the air. And a portal suddenly appeared, glowing like a ghost door just above the ground. It opened, and Emma could see, as if she were looking through a keyhole. Magnus Bane stood on the other side of the portal, and besides him was Alec Lightwood, tall and dark-haired, and holding a little boy in his a white shirt and with navy blue skin. Alec looked messy and happy, and the way he held Max reminded Emma of the way Julian used to hold Tabby, and my heart. And then the next paragraph after that, in the middle of raising a hand to greet Emma, Alec paused and turned his head and said something that sounded like Raphael. Odd, Emma thought. Raphael Lightwood Bane, you guys. Oh my goodness. And then this was something that I was totally not expecting at the end of the book that Emma did. And so she decided that, this is too dangerous. She, she can't be with Julian because then everything, she can't be with him. And so she decides that she is going to break his heart, and she's going to tell him, you know what, we can't do this anymore. And so she knows that Julian knows that she, is just saying this to hurt him. He even says that. He's like, I know you're saying this just to, hurt me. Like, I know when you lie, or I know when you do what you do, and so I don't believe you. And so then Emma, she goes to Mark, and she tells him and so they have it out, her and Julian, like, have this conversation, and it was, like, heartbreaking. And so the very end of the book, which is the next page, she goes to Mark, and she's like, you know what, because she used to like Mark when she was younger. And so she goes to Mark and she tells him, she's like, you know what, we need to hurt Julian in order to protect him. And so that's what she ends up doing. She tells him, she's like, I need you to tell people that we're together. I need you to tell them that, like, we're falling in love and that we're in love, and we need to make it believable. And so I'm just like, I did not see this coming. I thought they were gonna, like, stay together and work this through and everything, but no. And it's gonna cause so much more angst and tension in the next books, and I'm just so looking forward to it. Yeah, and then she's talking to Mark, and then she's like, oh yeah, and so I suppose I only have one more question, Mark said, but first he turned around and very deliberately closed the door, and he holds his hand out to her, and he's like, why lie? And I'm like, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that, sir? Oh yeah, that happens. I don't know really how to interpret that why lie question mark sentence, but yeah. So then we get the epilogue. The epilogue. Stranger magic still. In her tomb by the sounding sea, Annabelle's eyes opened. So I imagine this is going to be the thing. This is going to be what they're going to fight against in the next, book or two. Annabelle's going to come back. She's going to see Malcolm is dead. It's going to be a whole Romeo and Juliet thing. Except she probably won't kill herself. And then she's going to go and attack them. And she's going to want revenge. And I don't even know. So I guess I do have a theory. But and I was thinking, I'm like, okay, didn't they need Blackthorn blood in order to, do this? And so I tried to read back, and I don't think anybody, like, cut themselves or anything. They didn't obviously sacrifice Tavi, so I don't know, like, how she rose without Blackthorn blood, and I'm sure that's something that they're going to talk about in the next book. Okay, so that was the end of Lady Midnight, and we were blessed with, what's the short story at the end of the book, and I'm going to talk about that right now. So we start with the epilogue, and it is a new story featuring Clary and the characters from the Immortal Instruments, and this was 5 years after City of Heavenly Fire, same time as this book. It was, this is a party that they were attending when they had to go to the LA Institute. And so it starts off with Clary, and then, Simon's like, oh, me and Shadowhunter, me and Izzy are engaged, and she wants to have a party, on Max's birthday. Oh, and there was a part, it was so funny, where, what's it called? Jace, he's like, God, I love Jace so much. He's like, we're going to be family, you and me, Simon. We're going to be brothers. People will think we're related. And Simon's like, no one will think that. And Clary's like, I'm so delighted for you, Simon. You and Izzy will be so happy. And she turns to Jace. As for you, get up and congratulate Simon, or I'll pour all of your expensive shampoo down the drain. And at that, Jace bounces up. And I just thought that was so funny. That's so Jace, so Clary. I love it. And then Izzy, how she wanted to have this party on Max's birthday. And I wrote, the fact that she wants to do it on Max's birthday is reminding me of her vision, or that scene in City of Heavenly Fire where she has a party and Max is there. Oh, Simon throws her a surprise birthday party and Max is there. And it just reminded me of that. And I just... And I thought it was interesting that Clary got a computer inside of the Institute. I thought that was really cool. And so there's a whole bunch of mentions of Max and Raphael. Magnus was seated on it. His son Max, a 3-year-old warlock with navy blue skin, curled up against his side. And also on the blanket was a 5-year-old boy, this one a shadow hunter with tangled black hair, who reached for a book. Magnus held out to him and gave the warlock a shy smile. Okay, and then there's that scene with Alec and Clary, and I just absolutely adore their relationship. I know right now on Shadowhunters it's a little bit rocky, a little bit iffy, but they really become like best friends. And I just really love this part in this story where Alec is like off in the room with the tulips, and then Clary's like, what's wrong? And he's like, oh yeah, the people are coming or whatever, and how like he doesn't know what's gonna happen with Raphael, with Raph, with little Raffy. And she's like, you know what, it'll be fine. And she's just like consoling him, and he's like, okay, thanks, Clary. And then they go back and we finally see our first glimpse of Izzy, and she's like freaking out. She's like so happy, and I'm just like, oh, Izzy. And she's like, oh, tulips. And then it was really funny when she was trying to talk, but she had like she couldn't speak properly. And then later on in the story, Clary is looking at Simon, and then Jace comes up to her, and they start walking off to like up to the balcony or whatever, and she looks back, and Alec is like, just like what? And so I already had an idea, and then Jace proposes, and he's like, okay, so will I what? Marry me, Clary. Oh my god, Jace Herondale proposing. I was ecstatic. I was reading this at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was just so happy. But then they're out there, and Magnus like interrupts them, and he's like, oh yeah, about the magic whatever in LA, and so they have to go. And and Magnus, he's like, oh, I walked in on your ancestors doing worse. That was a direct Infernal Devices reference with Tessa and Will, the part in Clockwork Princess. Oh my god, that was just nice. And then again with Magnus and the biscuit, he's like, oh, I hate it when you write biscuit. I love it. And then the very end, where she's like, oh, Jace moved beside her, taking her hand in his. She felt the light pressure of his fingers. Marry me, Clary. When they returned, she would have to give him the answer. She dreaded it, but for now they were I'm like, she dreaded it. Why is she dreading it? And so I was like, why are you dreading it, Clary? But then I was thinking about it, and so that's something that we're obviously gonna have to discuss, or have to read and learn about in the next book. But yeah, so Clary's dreading it, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, well, the Shadowhunters, they've grown up with this idea that, you know, marriage happens young. Like, you know, they don't always survive that long, so they get married and start families young because they don't know how long they're going to live. Clary grew up as a mundane, you know, you get married a little bit later, you get married a little bit later. It's not like the very first thing you do, or at least not in Clary's mind. I know in some people's it is, or whatever. But so yeah, I'm just curious. I feel like that's maybe the only reason why she's dreading it. Maybe there's more. I don't know. So I'm extremely excited for this next book. So many questions, and I need answers. Like, what is going to happen with Annabelle? What is going to happen with Kit? What is going to happen with Kit and Jace? What is going to happen with Julian and Emma? What is going to happen with Emma and Mark? What is going to happen with everybody? And I need answers, and I cannot wait until April when the next book comes out, and just, oh my goodness. Oh, and also before I wrap up, I just wanted to show another, I know I did this in my last Shadowhunters video, but I wanted to show another fan art. That's gonna be right here. And it's of like teenage or adult Raphael and Max, the brothers. And I saw this on Tumblr and I just thought it was the cute. I love this fan art. I just love it. I mean, look at it. Wherever it is. Look at it. Look at Max. Look at Raph. Look at Max with his blue, like, magic. I love it. I love this so much. It is beautiful and it's a beautiful art style. I love it. And I absolutely adore it. And I thought that I would share and show you guys. I have links below to the artist's Tumblr if you would like to see it. I wanted to put her stuff like down in the doobly-doo so that you could go and see it, but I just wanted to show you guys this piece of art because I absolutely adore it. I love seeing people's fan arts. Oh my god, you guys are so good. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that before I wrapped up. So like I said probably 2 or 3 times already, this video is super duper long and I just wanted to thank you all so much for watching. And so please leave all your comments down below. I know this book came out a few weeks ago and a lot of you have already read it and reviewed it and all that, but please leave all your comments down below. Let us discuss it. I'm sure there's a few things that I didn't even talk about. So yeah, like I said, thank you all so much for watching. Truly, it's like just amazing that you guys watch me. It's like, what? But yes, thank you all so much for watching again, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!